Who wrote this note asking me about Ramana's teachings? Well, that's a really good question, and I hope I can do it justice. What is the relationship between ethics and the teaching of Ramana Maharshi? Ramana's teaching is really not a teaching the way we think of teachings, with a whole syllabus attached to it. It's simply be still and know who you are. And then you live your life. Now, the easy answer, and it's a true answer also, is that, when you know who you are, you love that. And so it would be quite natural that you would meet yourself and love yourself and not cause harm. But the simplicity in being still and knowing yourself is then met by the complexity of life and events and forms. And it's not for the teaching to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. It's what you have to discover is your ethical or moral compass. You are free. And that means, of course, you are free to do harm, and we do harm all the time. But you are free to tell the rigorous truth of who are you? Where do you begin? Where do you end? And from that, there is naturally a deep concern with yourself in totality. The expression of that concern has infinite forms. Ramana was a hermit, but he didn't preach that you needed to be a hermit to be still and know yourself. He was celibate. He never had sexual relations. He didn't teach that that's necessary for you to know yourself. He was vegetarian. He didn't teach that you had to be vegetarian or Brahmin or Hindu or Indian or religious of any kind. It's taking the intelligence that is innate, being still with the workings of the mind from that intelligence, and recognizing who you are. In general, there are rules and counter-rules and rebellions and reformations when there is a teacher who is giving a teaching, like Christ or the Buddha. And then there are wars, or Muhammad, and then there are wars between groups who say, no, this is what he meant. No, this is what you should do. No, we got here first. This teaching is not in your life to tell you what you should and should not do. That's really up to you. Just your capacity to be still and know who you are uncovers an ocean of intelligence. Then that intelligence has to live, has to make choices, has to take the consequences of choices that are made, and adapts to choices. Maybe we live in particularly immoral, unethical times, but I think probably not in particular. I believe if you read a little history, you will see it has always been a really big mess. At least once we got into a sense of civilization and interacting with other civilizations and different families and different ethical standards and different moral idealisms. So I don't want to treat this lightly at all, because I am a great believer in the necessity for living a moral life with ethical standards. But I am not a believer in the burden of that or the imposition of that. I have often said, and I say it again, I am not a missionary. I'm not here to convert you to Ramana's teachings or Papaji's teachings. Whatever your moral life is, you still have the capacity to stop. As Papaji would say, call off the search, be still, and know yourself. And then from that, live freely. And free life does not necessarily mean doing whatever you want. It means freely, and in that freedom, recognition of where you cause suffering unnecessarily and where you continue your own suffering unnecessarily, because it's also immoral to suffer unnecessarily, because that spreads the vibration of suffering and your misery into the world. So really the willingness to take responsibility for your own intelligence and to know that you can recognize your own particular mistakes along the way and make amends or correct course or be more still. Know yourself more deeply. But to me, it brings it back to the fact that this is not really a teaching. This is calling your attention to what is here before any teaching, during any teaching, and after all teachings are finished. All religions, all ideas, all notions of myself and other. So the ball is right back in your court. At one time, someone heard Papaji's teachings and said, "Oh my God, what are you saying? You're saying this to people, Westerners. You're saying this to people and you don't know. Are they egomaniacs? They could just go wild with this. They could cause great harm." And he said, it's true, they could. But what other teaching has not caused great harm? You can encapsulate egotistically around anything, and you do, and you have. And part of the invitation to self-reflection is to recognize that tendency and to be willing to simply lose all the benefits that you have gotten from that tendency. To lose all your accumulations. And be still. And know yourself.